Whenever I've been up against a problem, trying to solve a question, experiencing a continual frustration in my life, I found that the answer is always being found in myself.
I don't know if I'd call it a full-on disorder, but it was borderline a disorder. It didn't completely debilitate me, but it was serious. And I went to a lot of weddings as a young woman that I left in an ambulance, unfortunately, because I'd have these panic attacks.
You might hear in certain, philosophies or schools of thought, we're co-creators. That's not quite accurate because energy is neither created nor destroyed. So that means that everything's already here.
I think I've been afraid of being poor my whole life, and it may have made me, overwork and caused all this insane stress in me for no reason.
Hi, I'm Dave Conway, and I'm here with my wife, Jacqueline. Welcome to the 30-Day Year. On this podcast, we're sharing stories, ideas, and philosophies to show you what it takes to turn your annual income into your monthly income. I've learned that the first step to creating a 30-day year is entertaining new ideas that might at first appear strange or even laughable. But stick with us as we reveal that this idea is a very real way to build success. Our plan is to spark curiosity into what you're capable of achieving by exploring ideas around freedom, contribution, work, life, everything. The content may even disturb your perception of life a bit too, which we hope it does. This podcast is not about us, it's all about you. So sit back, relax, and come in with an open mind. Welcome to the 30-Day Year.
You've been teaching people about the mind for a really long time, Dave. Kind of as long as I've known you. You've been talking about it in some way, shape, or form.
It's my jam.
It's gone from maybe more informal kind of discussion to definitely more formal, professional kind of stuff over the years. And especially when you became a mindset coach, I remember those early days, you'd be gone for days, full days. I'd be like, what happened to you today? And you're like, oh, I just started talking about the mind with these people. And you know how it goes. Little drawings come out and the conversations get deep. And I get it. People get into it. It's interesting. It's fascinating stuff. So it can really take over. And it starts to become almost this form of edutainment where you're educated, but you're also very entertained at the same time.
Listening to me?
Yes. Or just talking about the mind. Once you really get into it, it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's all I like to talk about, to be honest.
I know. It's your personal obsession, and it just continues to deepen. So it's your obsession, but it's, a passion as well. And your knowledge is really deep on the topic because you've studied a lot about it. You've also worked with tons and tons of people to help them with their mindsets through programming, events, coaching, everything. So you know the mind. And so I want to get into that today so that our people that are listening, that are going for 30-day goals, begin to understand the important role of the mind in all of this and begin to see how it all works a little bit more refinedly, if refinedly is a word. I'm not sure if it's actually a word or not. It is now. I know for myself that over the time of going through study and personal growth, that understanding my mind is just invaluable. And being able to catch myself in rhythms or catch myself in, I guess habits perhaps is the best word to use, but seeing how these things have maybe helped me in the past or hindered me in the past or reshaping the way my mind works, it's just been incredible. It's just a really incredible gift and perhaps the greatest gift of the whole thing. Earning more money is great. Having a better lifestyle is great. But understanding myself better is the best part of it. So I think that's what understanding the mind can do for a person. So to get started on this, why don't you just tell me about the human mind? And hopefully we'll be done in a little while and not 8 hours.
All right, this is going to be a 7.5 day episode. Just jokes. 7.5 hours. Mm-hmm. So your question is, tell me about the mind?
Tell me about the human mind.
Well, where do we begin?
You tell me.
Yeah, you tell me. Well, let's start with that you have one.
Okay. That sounds like the right place to start.
Let's start there.
Okay.
I've had the honor and privilege of sharing these ideas with tens of thousands of people in my speaking and coaching career. And I'll start a lot of my seminars with this question, a lot of my talks, with who here is aware that they're in possession of a human mind? And whenever I ask that question, I'll actually everyone's hand goes up, number one. Mm-hmm. Now, some people have lost. It's like I'll make the joke but maybe you've lost it lately or whatever. And they're like, But so everybody does raise their hand. Who here is aware they're in possession of a human mind? And everybody's hand goes up. And sometimes I'll even hear little snickers, where the hell did you get this guy? Of course I am, right? And then I follow up with a second question, which generally flattens the room. And, if crickets were in the room, you could hear them. And the question that I ask is, what does it mean to be in possession of a human mind? What does that mean in your life? What role is your mind playing in your life? And I'll usually create a space for people, 3 to 5 minutes, to start to write about it. What role is my mind playing in my life? And then I'll ask people to share what came out, what they wrote down, and I'll get all different kinds of answers. But at the end of it all, basically us as a collective in the room will conclude that everything, our mind is playing a role in everything in our life, influencing everything in our life. And James Allen has this pretty badass quote in his As a Man Thinketh. As a Man Thinketh, he says, "Mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought, in shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys or 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, yet it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass." So James Allen's telling us that it all starts in the mind. And 30-day years start in the mind. Every person, it's my opinion, that every person in the world has a 30-day year locked up inside themselves right now. Because scientists have basically told us that in regards to potential, that it is infinite. Right? Many of you will hear this, you're only using 10% of your brain, Now, I don't know what they mean by that. Are they saying 10% of my mind or 10% of my brain? Because if I lost 90% of my brain, I don't think I'd be functioning all that well.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
I think I'm using 100% of my brain. I don't know. I don't know much about in that area. But I think what they're really saying is that we only use 10% of our potential. Now, if our potential is infinite, that's erroneous too. Because if your potential is infinite, then you're using infinitely not as much as you can because it's infinite. So 10% wouldn't even be accurate either. But I get the idea. The idea is that we can do a hell of a lot better. Mm-hmm. And what I found in my own life, that whenever I've been up against a problem, trying to solve a question, experiencing a continual frustration in my life, I found that the answer is always being found in myself. So I believe that all of our problems are spiritual in nature, and therefore all of our solutions are spiritual in nature. So when we talk about the mind, what we need to understand is there's a portion of your mind that is spiritual in nature. So we're a spiritual being, we have an intellect, and we live in a physical body. And this is why it can be so challenging for us as people to live, because let's get honest, Jack, being a human being is kind of a pain in the butt.
It's tricky.
Tricky.
On a good day, it's tricky. And on a bad day, it sucks. It's really strange in a lot of ways. Yeah.
Right. So we have this part of us that is spiritual in nature that's always wanting us to express and grow. And that expresses in the form of a feeling. So another thing that we want to understand around the mind is that when people think of the mind, they generally think of thinking. And we need to understand that that's only one piece.
Function.
Yeah, that's only one piece of it. Your feelings are occurring in your mind. Your spirit is expressing through the mind, right? You're a spiritual being, you have an intellect, you live in a physical body. So we have this spiritual part that's always wanting us to grow and expand, this universal side. And then we've got this intellect, the ability to think, to reason, to dream, to use our imagination. We have 6 higher faculties that are contained inside there, and they are perception, reason, imagination, memory, will, and intuition. So how the body has 5 senses, see, smell, taste, touch, and hear, the human mind has 6 faculties, almost like 6 senses. And I'll repeat them: perception, reason, imagination, memory, will, and intuition. These are like your mind's hands and feet. This is like your mind's lungs, your mind's stomach, your mind's liver, right? They function. And then we live in a physical body. So we're trying to balance all the time between wanting to do better, this never-ending desire that's pushing us all the time to run faster, to be humans, to want better, to be human. Then you have to deal with this flippant mind that works on a polarity, so it's negative and positive. And then you got to manage this body. All the chemistry, all the things, aging, all these crazy, the cells, the what you eat, the exercise, the sleep. Let's get honest. There's so much information in the world now. It's becoming a little stressful just trying to manage perfection.
You're right. You're right. There is a lot of information coming at us all the time. And listening to you talk about this just makes me think it's interesting. Yes, you are a mindset coach and you know the mind. And we're not talking about the brain. We're talking about the mind. It's a very different conversation. It's not neuroscience. It's really ethereal and spiritual. It's just the non-physical side of our lives is really what we're getting into. And I think that's an important differentiation to make, because I think we can think of mindset and we can think of just, day-to-day habits and how I'm feeling and what I'm doing and blah, 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 blah. But there's just so much more to this conversation. Like as soon as we start to think that, there's a human mind, it's tapped to this like source of potential and energy. Like what's that about? And then how does that come into a person? And then what does the person do with all of that energy? How do they channel it for a greater good, a good purpose, right? And feels good about that greater purpose and fulfillment. And so it just opens up all these things for a person, like all these big, big things. And it's a beautiful thing though. And I think we have to embrace that as like a very cool lifelong journey that you're going to be on when it comes to your mind. It's never going to be, solved right now or fully understood maybe ever. There's just so much to it.
Well, if the human mind is claimed to be infinite in its capacity, then I would assume that it's going to take an eternity to try and discover its capacity.
I guess so. That's probably a good discernment.
Hey? Yeah. On and on and on we go. Groundhog Day every day.
Yeah.
Every day.
Yeah. And, I was thinking the other day, just being emotional creatures, like I was on a few of your coaching calls the last few days. I like listening in and hearing where people are at and sharing some of their stories. And I'll keep that all confidential, of course. But the main sentiment was that everyone on the call that was asking questions, going through things, was basically trying to figure out their feelings, trying to figure out what to do with how they felt, and understanding what to learn from what they're feeling. And that's the beauty of 30-day year goals, is that what becomes unconscious suddenly rises to the surface. So a lot of the people on the calls, they just started to set some goals, and now they're dealing with a lot of crazy stuff, like unpacking past hurts, unpacking loss, unpacking, what they actually want to do with their lives. Yeah. Are they in the right career? And so they're trying to figure out what they're feeling. They're trying to articulate what they're feeling. And that's really beginning, another, I think, benefit of just thinking about our minds, the difference between the conscious and the subconscious, which is actually my next question for you. If you can explain, like we know we have a mind, it's connected to source, there's like ideas, there's energy flowing through it. So tell me about the difference between our conscious mind or thinking mind and then our subconscious mind or our feeling mind.
So the conscious mind, it thinks, so it has the ability to reason. So whenever you hear the word conscious mind, you could also think of it as thinking mind, educated mind, intellectual mind, right? So you can start to think of it as the part of your consciousness or the part of your mind or consciousness. I like the word consciousness. I feel it's the most accurate as you start to dig into it. But as a part of your mind, that its function is to think. And what we need to understand is that we think in pictures. All right, we think in pictures. So when an image comes on our mind, it goes through the stream, it goes through the little thought stream at the front of the skull here, front of the brain, and we get images flash on the screen of our mind. The subconscious mind works differently than that. So your conscious mind, it can accept ideas, it can reject ideas, and it can originate ideas through the imagination. However, your subconscious mind is completely deductive. It has no ability to reject an idea. It must accept. Now, the subconscious mind, what they call the subconscious mind, I would also call it the universal mind, or the feeling mind, or the emotional mind. That's the part of us that I believe is connected to everything. Because the truth is, there is only one mind. We just share it on different vibrations. So when an image moves from the conscious mind into the subconscious mind through a decision, that image then is impressed into the universal side of your nature, which then starts the creative process in this movement and starts to attract to you. So a lot of people talk about the law of attraction. The law of attraction is not just like, oh, you won't believe what happened today. Like I attracted this guy and he bought a car from me, Okay, well that's cool. That's fine. What we need to understand is that the law of attraction first takes place in the mind. Mm-hmm. So your conscious mind, that part of you, that portion of your mind thinks, and the subconscious mind, that part of you, it feels and it creates.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Just listening to you talk about it, I'm just thinking about my own experience in life. And, if I close my eyes, I can start to actually see things in my mind. I can see cheeseburgers. I can see my kids. I can see my house. I can see a palm tree. I can see a puppy. I can see all kinds of things. I can create all kinds of things. And then if I just get quiet, I can suddenly start to think, how do I actually feel right now? Yeah. So if I was to assign a feeling to myself in this moment, I feel like calm. I feel like pretty calm. And so it's like, what does that all mean? It's like, okay, I've got like images running. I can see them. I can close my eyes. I can see images running. And then if I just sit down and think, how do I actually feel? It's like, yeah, I feel calm. So you can start to just become aware of the mind if you just take a second to think about it. Isn't that kind of interesting?
Yeah, if you make a space. So your thinking can influence your feelings. But for most people, their feelings are influencing the thinking.
Right.
So it's not what you think that's outright the issue. It's how you're feeling that's the issue.
Yes.
Right? Like, oh, you feel tired, you feel sick, you feel angry,
yes.
You feel depressed.
Right.
You don't think angry.
Yes.
Oh, I'm thinking angry today.
For sure, for sure. I feel angry.
Yeah, you feel angry. Yeah. I feel sad. I feel hungry.
Yeah.
Not like, oh, I think hungry right now.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. It's hilarious.
That's not how we talk.
For sure. No, we don't. But, it's interesting too. I think you asked a question recently, something about like, what was life like, when you're young or something like that. And I felt that life when I was young is that I felt my way through it, to your point. I wasn't thinking that, with any sense of awareness. I was just, my mind was there kind of thinking, but I was guided by my feelings. I feel this. I feel that. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Yep. It wasn't because I consciously decided. It was because the feeling was moving me into action. Yeah. And so a lot of decisions I made as a young person were really based on feeling. And I don't think that's entirely bad.
I think it's actually very good.
Okay, interesting.
Because your intuition is a feeling.
Yes.
Right? It's like you and I have been drinking the same coffee now. How long have we been together?
How old is Sinead? 16?
Yeah.
16 years.
Wow.
Yeah. That's how I remember, though. How old our nieces are.
Lucky you. So it's lucky me.
Lucky you.
So you and I have been together now for 16 years, and we've been drinking the same coffee for 16 years.
Yes. Oh my God, that's true.
Yeah. And we love it.
It's tasty.
Obviously.
Right.
And however, about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks ago, Jack and I started to make some shifts to health. We've been making health shifts for a while, but, doing some maybe more hardcore things or, more I don't want to say experimental. People don't think it's weird stuff, but, just trying a new level of health. New regime. And about a week and a half to 2 weeks ago, I began to get suspicious about our coffee. Mm-hmm. And I started getting this feeling that we need to shift, like that it's actually not making us feel good, or that's for me personally.
It hasn't been making me feel good for a while, and I find like
this shift started happening to you.
Yeah, about the same time,
about a week and a half ago, 2 weeks,
2 weeks ago, and I just started to wonder. Because I'll go through these phases where I'll have 1 cup a day and that's going good. And I'm like, 2 would be kind of nice. And I'll have 2. And I'm like, ooh, that's nice too. And then you're like, 3, whoa, that would be crazy. And so I have a 3rd cup and I start to feel bad. And then I find that this like buildup happens of maybe it's too much caffeine in my system and I'm not sleeping well. I start to feel anxious. I just don't feel good. And I know I have to like detox, and that can be rough coming off caffeine for people that have done that before. And then I started to think, well, but I can have other coffee sometimes. It doesn't affect me like that. Like, why is it this one?
Yeah.
And it's kind of weird.
I don't even know if it's outright caffeine related. I feel like it's like the bean or something. I don't know. So anyway, why am I saying this? Because there's a feeling connected. Yeah. First, you start to get a feeling. Like curiosity is a feeling.
Yeah.
Suspicion is a feeling. Fear is a feeling. Mm-hmm. Faith is a feeling. These are all states of mind. Anger is a feeling. Anything that's a feeling is a state of mind. Greed is a feeling. Mm-hmm. Guilt is a feeling.
Yes.
Courage is a feeling. Right? These are all states of mind. So it's our feelings that are dominating us. And we can try and get control of our thinking all we want, but I think the real secret lies in getting control of how we feel.
Okay, that's interesting. So how would one even do that? How do you start that?
Got to reprogram the sub, recondition the mind. So we've all been conditioned. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I first started doing my 30-day year, the reconditioning, the true reconditioning of myself, where I was consciously reconditioning myself through affirmations, really was the starting point of massive change. It's like I'm trying to transfer ideas from my conscious mind into my subconscious mind. That's what I'm trying to do. I have realized in my life to this point that that's how life is created.
You know what's so funny about that? I remember looking at you one time on stage at one of our events. I think it was Vision Maker last year around this time. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this version of my husband, Dave, is just a summation of autosuggestion. Like you've completely reconditioned your mind through autosuggestion. And I just viewed you as like this, like basically like a bunch of recordings being repeated over and over and over. I was like, he's totally changed himself.
I remember sitting in the back of an event room at a paradigm shift. It was my 10th paradigm shift with Bob Proctor in Los Angeles. I was sitting at the back, and I'm pretty sure Amelia was with me. And I'm sitting at the back, and it's my 10th one. And as I'm sitting there, I have this kind of epiphany where I'm like, oh my God. I was like, I'm not processing anything Bob is saying the same way as I used to. Mm-hmm. I'm not processing the people, like people in general, the same as I used to. I'm not processing this room the same way I used to. And I think most importantly, I'm not processing myself the same. It was almost like I had a lobotomy, like someone, cut the top of the skull and took my brain out and put a different brain in. Mm-hmm. Everything was changing.
Right.
And that's what you need to understand about the subconscious. Your subconscious mind is programmed. It has a paradigm in it. It's bound. It has habit pattern. You see, people think that habits are primarily just behaviors, but you have habits of emotion.
Yes.
And it's your habits of emotion that are creating your life.
Absolutely.
That's the attractor. That's the vibration. Because where is the vibration? Well, the word feeling, is just a word we invented to describe the vibration we're in or the state of mind that we're in. We just haven't been educated that well. I'm at the place today that I think our biggest problem as people is miseducation. And I'm not like down in the educational system. I want to be clear about that. It just is miseducation. It's either lack of education or miseducation. And unfortunately, we really don't know much about ourselves.
No, we don't. You know, I went through a period of my life as a young woman where I was very anxious, had anxiety issues. I don't know if I'd call it a full-on disorder, but it was borderline a disorder. It didn't completely debilitate me, but it was serious. And I went to a lot of weddings as a young woman that I left in an ambulance, unfortunately, because I'd have these panic attacks.
Just wanted to be the bride, eh?
I just wanted to be the bride.
Then Prince Charming showed up and I cured it.
To any of the people that might listen that I was at your wedding, I apologize for leaving in such a dramatic fashion. But anyways,
for some reason,
I swear it wasn't about me. I swear. I was there for you.
I just see now like people like when this occurrence started happening, then people like, it's like Jack and Dave, should we invite them to the wedding? It's like, oh, Jack's gonna steal the show. Like, we have enough lights at the discotheque. You don't need the ambulance lights going on the outside too.
That's so bad. But potentially ran through some people's minds, you bet. But anyways, so I had this period of time. There must have been like 5 or 6 weddings this happened at. So bizarre. It was always happening at weddings. I won't get into the full-on spiel about that. But when I began to dig into what was really happening, more so in my 30s, when I started to, because this was in my 20s when this was happening. So in my 30s, got more into mindset and this kind of stuff we're talking about right now, and learning about fear and the mind, how the mind works, how the subconscious is programmed environmentally and also genetically. And I started to realize, once I just started to think about it, I was like, I was really scared of being poor back then.
Yeah, it's unreal.
I had this like fear of poverty. And it was like, it basically motivated overworking. It motivated having multiple jobs. It motivated working essentially full-time while being a student. It ran everything. This fear of being poor. And it got so bad because I was probably stretched so thin. So I was probably just frazzled and probably in a heightened state of cortisol all the time, that it would just like explode when I was at a party having, a good time, probably having a bit of alcohol in my system too, dancing around, and then all of a sudden I would just collapse. But it all came back to fear that was in my subconscious mind that I just wasn't aware of back then. And I don't have panic attacks anymore. I don't pass out at people's weddings, which is good. Been to many successful weddings since then. But, the benefit of just studying my mind revealed this to me. And that's pretty amazing because now as a mother, I kind of have my eye on, well, how am I programming my kids? What am I giving to other people? Because what I don't fix, my kids will inherit. So it's like, what environment can I create for them now where that's not motivated by fear? It's motivated by faith is my hope. So it's just, you never know what you're going to find as you start to unearth your mind. Because there's a lot going on beneath the surface. And don't be scared of it, don't be scared of it.
Yeah, I used to have a mentor in my early 20s, a spiritual mentor of mine, and he used to say to me, Dave, the mind is a scary place. Don't go in alone.
Right?
Especially you. All my mentors were a-holes, by the way.
So hard on you.
I think that's what makes a good one.
So hard on you.
Yeah, so hard.
So, let's chat quickly about mentorship because in coaching, I was thinking about this because I think that, when we're talking about the mind, you're a mindset coach. You help people achieve big things like 30-day years. And when you work through something like this, weird stuff comes out, right? And I find that you can't reflect yourself through those things. You need someone to talk it out with. Like when the situations come up, like, I was like, holy shit, I think I've been afraid of being poor my whole life. And it may have made me, overwork and caused all this insane stress in me for no reason. Like, I'm not going to be poor. I'm not going to be homeless. Like, it just, I won't ever be those things. Like, why am I scared? It's a totally irrational fear. Completely irrational. You need someone to help you through that. And you don't know what's going to come out, and that's why like coming to the events is good. That's why having a coach is good because you work through big change. You need someone to help you through it. You see that all the time.
Yeah, it's a paradigm game. It's a programming game. So we're just like, our personality is just basically based upon all the ideas that have been and beliefs that have been impressed on our subconscious mind.
Yeah.
And the subconscious mind, ideas get fixed in the subconscious mind because your subconscious mind operates by law. So anyone can pass an idea over here and there and make a little win in their life, but the true change is going to come through that repetitive imaging, that repetitive feelings of the new feeling, just the same way that the other ones are created too. The negative feelings were created and will be created in the same way that the positive feelings will be. So I remember when I first started to, you could call this prayer in a way, truthfully. My brother and I, we used to have a construction business together, and we used to purchase old houses, and we would knock them down, and we'd rebuild new ones, and we would rent them out. And basically, our plan was, and we were executing it, we would try and purchase one lot that was 50, split it. So 2 lots, 2 25-foot lots. And then we would knock the house down, and then we would build 2 new ones. And our plan, what we were doing was we were doing that every 4 months. So we were doing 6 new builds a year. So we would start, and my brother would always say to me, interest now that I'm thinking about it and talking about it, he would message me and he would say, okay, we need another lot. And he would just go to me. And what I would do is this is no joke, I would stand in my living room. I would create a clear mental picture in my mind. This is like 2015, 10 years ago. I would build a clear mental picture in my mind. I would put my hands out and I would just ask the power for the lot, and I would pass that idea over. But when I did it, I was so convicted that it was done the moment that I did it. I think this is what true prayer is.
You're right.
And I'm exploring prayer in a whole nother way these days. Like I'm going so deep into it. And within 48 hours, Jack, every single time someone would call, something would happen, boom, another lot.
I remember it.
Every time.
I remember it. Yeah.
And Niall and I, we built in that way 15 properties.
I remember.
And they were all created through image building. And then I would do the same thing when the properties were ready to be rented. I would do the same thing. I would just say a prayer. But that was the extent of my usage of the power. You see, there's this relationship. Get me excited now. There's this relationship between your imagination and your subconscious mind.
Yes. They're connected.
Yes. And this is massive in helping you produce a 30-day year, because it's your imagination that's the creative faculty. It's your imagination that's the receiving faculty. So even when we say the word creative, that's not outright accurate, to be honest. You might hear in certain, philosophies or schools of thought where people will say we're co-creators. That's not quite accurate, because energy is neither created nor destroyed. So that means that everything's already here. So what's really happening is the mind is a receiving set, and we receive on higher frequencies when we open up to higher frequencies. So a lot of us are walking around trying to manifest things in our life, but the issue is we're conjuring. We're trying to conjure it. What we need to do is we need to relax, let ourselves focus, and allow those ideas to come in. So my brother Niall would say, hey, we need a lot. I'd say, okay. So I'd receive that information. I would go stand in my living room, close my eyes, put my arms out, create a picture, give thanks for the lot as it came in, that we had it, every time without fail, within 48 hours. And I'm not joking. 48 hours was the longest I ever had to wait for someone else to bring a lot to me. When I started to see this, when I worked with Bob Proctor, there's 2 people that I worked with, and these people were making sales every day. Every day they were enrolling people, regardless of the leads, regardless of bookings on the calendar, regardless of how Bob's YouTube videos were doing or whatever it was. Regardless, these people were producing all the time. And they were the only 2 people on the team that were producing all the time. So I was like, I like that. So I began to ask them, like, what's your real attitude? So I'm looking for their attitude, because the state of mind or your attitude in which you pray will determine if the prayer is going to be effective or not. And most of us are praying, and I think most of us have actually been taught to pray a way that doesn't really produce results. There's a lot of people in this world praying, Jack. There's a lot of people walking around with their prayer beads. You wouldn't want their life in a million years. It's interesting.
It is, yeah.
So I began to notice these two people, and they became a testimony for me. And I got to know their attitude and what I learned about them, what was different between them and me at that time, and them, therefore, and everybody else. But, I'm them and me for sure, was their attitude. When they woke, they expected it. It was like they were unconsciously praying all the time. It was their state of mind. And that state of mind never deviated. You see, my state of mind was, I used to think like this, that I needed a sales call to produce a sale. So that was my mental attitude. So that's what my subconscious mind delivered to me. This is so hard to get around for people to understand this, that your mental attitude in relationship to yourself and your subconscious mind is actually what's producing your life.
Yeah, it's wild.
I began closing sales every day once I made that mental shift. I remember one time waking up on a Monday morning, and I don't think everybody's cut out for sales or entrepreneurship either, because, every Monday you wake up and you're back at zero again.
Yeah.
Right? Like every week you're back at zero. And I don't think a lot of people have that, capacity or mental stamina or desire, willingness or ambition to go for it. And I remember waking up one Monday morning, I didn't have one single call on my calendar. And by 4:00 that day, I had 7 sales.
Wow.
All based on the mental attitude. But first was the testimony. And I think that's what we need. I think we need testimony. Like, it's interesting, it calls the Old Testament the New Testament. Well, it's a testimony. It's showcasing that this has happened. This is happening. And that's what a testimonial is, right? You go online, like anyone here, go check out our Trustpilot reviews. Like we're ranking on excellent. I think every person that's putting anything on there, I believe it's all 5-star. That's been in the mentorship or been at an event. They're all saying the same thing in a different way. They've never experienced anything like this. So that's a testimony, and we need those because it's kind of saying, hey, look, this is a way of life that you can live.
Yeah.
Right? Like Jack and I now are on our way to solidifying our second 30-day year.
Yeah.
Right? I'm helping new clients now begin to move into their second 30 year, not their first, their second.
Right.
And in the beginning, the 30-day year idea is so foreign to most people. It's such a foreign way of actually setting goals. I'm not saying setting goals. I'm saying actually setting goals. It's so foreign to our current mental conditioning and our current state of mind that most people will reject it or believe they're not interested in it. But if they settle down and they calm their mind down, they're going to realize they do want it, because there's a part of them that wants to grow. There's a part of them that wants to express.
Yeah, we all want to get better. We just all want to get better no matter what. Even if we don't know what it is that we're going to get better at. We always want to get better. One quick thing, and I actually say quick thing, but I feel like that could be opening a whole can of worms with this question. But you did say earlier that the subconscious mind operates by law. So I wondered if you could just explain that a little bit more.
Yeah, so when you think of your subconscious mind and your conscious mind, think of it like this. So think of your subconscious mind as the earth, right? Like Mother Nature. And think of your conscious mind or your imagination as the seed creator. So the acorn is the imagination, it's a seed, and that seed can never transmute and fulfill its destiny of becoming an oak tree until it's planted into an environment that's conducive to its unfoldment. So if you planted that acorn into here's a few different examples of it. You threw that acorn on the road, what's going to happen to the acorn? It never turned to an oak tree. Jesus talked about this in the mustard seed parable. is like it's just going to disintegrate. It's
Right.
zero chance. But then what happens if it does get put into some soil, but that soil is just full of not weed. Yeah, man. You know, when I was when I was a teenager, there was this store called San Francisco, and it was like kind of like a gag kind of store.
Yeah.
And they had this shirt. Well, obviously I'm talking about it, and it was this like Rastafarian guy who was like out in like in a garden, but it was like weed plants,
Right.
And it said this: "I be weed in me garden, man."
Greg, that's a classic. Wish you had it.
I be weed in me garden, man. Anyway,
man.
so if your garden is full of weeds, that acorn might not bear fruit either.
It might get like strangled up by those weeds. Yeah,
That's right.
For sure.
So a lot of people are planting their goals and their ideas and their visualizations into a kind of a toxic environment.
Yeah, you got to rototill that shit.
You do. You got to prep the ground. You got to freaking get in there, right?
Yeah.
Like start pulling the weeds, start preparing the ground.
Yeah.
And if you're not seeing the results, then maybe that's what gets you like, hey, we've been trying to plant, these carrots for like 4 years now. So
They're
hey,
not working.
Yeah, it's not working. So what's wrong? The seeds are growing in Jimmy's yard, no problem. Why aren't they growing in ours? And it's like, well, hey, maybe we should do something about that. Maybe we need
We're
fertilizer.
nutrient deficient.
Yeah, exactly. Find out what's the cause, right?
Yes.
So your subconscious mind is like the garden.
Yes.
And you can start to condition the mind that almost any idea you pop into it, it's such a healthy, nutrient-rich garden and soil that it produces amazing results, produces the best kind of food, the best kind of fruit. So your conscious mind is the seed. Your conscious mind, your imagination, the images that you're thinking, and seeing in your mind, those are spiritual seeds. Those are the seed. Your subconscious mind is the real creator. It operates by law. Once that acorn goes into the ground, it has a vibration in it. It starts to attract nutrients to it. It starts to fuse with those nutrients. It gets sprouts. It gets a little stem. It pokes through the ground, starts photosynthesis. And then all of a sudden you've got an oak tree there, and then you're going to have another 10,000 acorns.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that visual and the analogy of using like a garden compared to our mind. And that's the crazy part, is that we don't know what weeds or what things might be underlying in our heads and our minds that could prevent that seed from growing.
Yeah, like you and the fear of poverty. So you're
Exactly.
like, you probably had...
Held me back in a lot of ways, I'm sure.
Exactly. You probably desired some peace of mind. You probably desired some success. I don't know.
Yeah, I did.
What some of your conscious goals or unconscious goals were at that time.
Well,
but
I did have, there's this one job that I had applied for at a university, and it was like a Toronto-based job. It would have been a really good kind of like corporate gig for a kid that was like 22. And I got to the very end interview process. I was flown out to Toronto, did the whole thing, and I didn't get it. And I remember my friend telling me, she's like, there's just probably one thing that you're just missing that they were looking for, but like that will probably help you in a different way. And I appreciated her feedback, and I think she's right. But I was wondering, yeah, like what was that thing? And I have the suspicion that it was this kind of like overachieving, overworking, like kind of like spreading my focus out sort of habit that I'd formed that really held me back from getting that job, which all comes back to that fear. And so I wonder if that's what held me back from getting that opportunity. Did my life work out just fine? Absolutely not. No regrets, no like if only kind of energy here. But I wonder, like what has held me back in the past. And in fact, the first seminar I went to with Bob Proctor, that was the question that came to mind, was what don't I know that is holding me back? What's planted in my head that's like preventing me from earning $100K a year, $100K a month? What's preventing me from being more successful and having a larger impact in my work? That's all I could think about afterward. And it really rattled me for quite some time, actually, was thinking about what I just don't know about myself.
yeah, exactly. And it's like the subconscious mind has also been known as the unconscious mind. So it doesn't really seem fair, does it? It's like so much of it is unknown. But there is a way to know what is happening in my subconscious mind. How will I know that, Dave? What's happening in your life? That's how you know. It's a massive pill to swallow. I know when my results weren't the way that I wanted them to be in life, when I was, fairly frustrated individual, sick all the time, in physical pain and kind of mental, emotional pain. Who wants to accept that idea?
Nobody,
right?
Consciously.
Exactly. So it's like, if you're looking at your results and they're not necessarily what you want, understand that there's some vibration in your subconscious mind. And a lot of people aren't ready for that. I know when I truly started to take full responsibility, I call it the responsibility pill. It's like a big gobstopper. So as big as your fist, and it takes you 10 years to get it down.
So, yeah, it's so true. So I feel like there's one of two ways we can end today's podcast. One is that you recite the beautiful James Allen quote that you said earlier, or we just say, "We be weeding my garden, man." So you can choose which one you'd rather deliver to us to close this episode.
I be weeding me garden. Okay, just jokes. I'll do the James Allen.
Okay. I figured.
All right, James. I be weed. Just joking. Mind is the master power that molds and makes, and man is mind. And evermore he takes the tool of thought, and shaping what he wills, brings forth 1,000 joys, 1,000 ills. He thinks in secret, yet it comes to pass. Environment is but his looking glass. Hey there, if you enjoyed today's podcast, leave a review, hit subscribe, share with a friend, and have a fantastic day.
Produced at
Sound Lounge by T-Bone.